Hello everyone, Anna English here from English Like a Native. Today we are learning some more phrasal verbs. So I'm going to share my screen with you now and show you that we have a number of phrasal verbs to cover. This is what we're covering today, all the way down to... Oh, there. Okay, so quite a few to get to. Quite a few to get through. So I want you to practice each one as I work through them. I want you to put each phrasal verb into a sentence and put it in the comments, and I will try to take some time to correct any mistakes, give you a thumbs up if you're correct. All right, so the very first one we're looking at here is break down. So to break down, there's a number of different variations of meaning. This one is to end negotiations unsuccessfully. To end negotiations unsuccessfully. So the negotiations broke down. They broke down. And the example sentence I wrote here for any football fans is: the transfer talks between QPR and Liverpool have broken down. So this is talking about football transfers. The transfer talks between QPR and Liverpool have broken down. These negotiations to transfer a player have been unsuccessful, and nothing else is going to happen until they start up their transfer talks again. So I'd like you to give this a go, using broken down to mean negotiations are no longer working out and they stop because they're unsuccessful. They have broken down. Okay, so while you're doing that, I'm going to move on to the next meaning. And the next meaning of breakdown is a personal one: to start crying. So if you break down, if a person breaks down, then it means they start crying. Often you could say breaks down in tears. She broke down in tears, which is what I've actually written here in my example sentence. As soon as I hugged her, she broke down in tears. So this kind of takes the idea that if you're very emotional, you hold all that emotion in, and it will just take something to break your resolve, to hold that emotion in. You break and all the emotion comes out. So you break, and usually when you're sad, you crumple, you go down. So you break down. Oh, my life. Okay. So it's not used when someone just has a little tear or a little, couple of tears. Maybe if they're sad watching a film or they've just heard some bad news. There's not terrible news, but it's a little bit sad and they give a few tears. That's not breaking down. Breaking down is a real outpouring of emotion. Okay, let me have a look at some of your example sentences here. Just going to scroll back. Quick general question here. How much do British people love to use phrasal verbs, usually in daily conversation? A lot. We use phrasal verbs all the time. It really depends, I guess, on what your conversation is. If you're just giving orders, then you may not give too many phrasal verbs, but I think generally they're just an ingrained part of who we are. So learning phrasal verbs is going to be really helpful for you. Right, let's have a look for some examples here. Okay, the negotiation with the government broke down. Yeah, good. The negotiation. You're talking about just one negotiation here. Often negotiations is said in plural because it's normally a couple of points that you're negotiating. So we normally say the negotiations. But other than that, that was very good. Do try when you're doing these example sentences to use the correct formats, as well as capital letter at the beginning, full stop at the end. So use your punctuation, your capitalization as well. It's good practice. Okay. Any more? Okay. I can't see any more here. All right, here's one for breakdown. Okay, after hung up, she broke down his tears. So you need something after who hung up. You need the who before the phrasal verb hung up. So hung up is a phrasal verb for putting the phone down, for ending a conversation. These days, you could hang up, I guess, a Skype call. We used to hang up a physical phone, didn't we? A physical handpiece would go up onto the main body of the phone. So that's why we call it hang up, to hang up. But now we just, even if you're just pressing a button or clicking to end a call, we use the phrase hang up. So after she hung up, she broke down in tears. So you'd need to use she twice. After she hung up, she broke down in tears. Very good. Here we go. Oh, I just lost it. Where was it? Okay, after she hung up. This one. The negotiations between Washington and Tehran broke down and USA went out from the agreement. So went out is not the right phrase. Backed out would probably be the best phrase here. So if it's an agreement that was already in place, and then they decided, like the Paris Agreement, the Paris Climate Agreement, is it called? If they were to walk away from agreement they were already a part of, then you say they backed out, not went out. Okay, so the negotiations between Washington and Tehran broke down, and the USA backed out of the agreement. Backed out of the agreement. Well done, though. Just find some more here. So yes, burst into tears is very similar to break down in tears. So burst into tears, broke down in tears are the same. And that was what Mary was asking. Can we say burst into tears? Yes. Yes, you can. Okay, Vasile here says, when my mother passed away, I was completely broken down. Okay, so because to break down, you take away was. If you're talking about breaking down in tears, you take away was. So you just say, I completely broke down. I completely broke down. You could say I was completely broken because that's a state. That's the state you were in. I was broken. But when we're talking about what you did, you cried, you broke down, you're using a phrasal verb, you don't need was. So I completely broke down, meaning I cried, or I was, the state, I was completely broken. To say I was completely broken isn't just referring to crying, the physical act of crying. It's referring to a feeling that you're unable to do anything. You're broken as a person. Your spirit is broken. You can't find happiness. Okay? So if that's true about your mother passing away, I am sorry. I send my condolences. Okay. Jesus says, it's also said that saliva breaks food down, isn't it? Yes, and that's a different kind of breakdown. To break something down in terms of food is to break it apart, basically, so it's easy to digest. You can also break down instructions. I'm not sure if I put this in the list, actually. To break down instructions, to break something down is to put it into smaller compartments so it's easier to digest, easier to understand. Break it down into small parts. Often in learning, it's good to break down a bigger learning, to do your learning in bite-sized chunks so that it doesn't seem so overwhelming. It's more manageable. Okay, so if you're just joining me here now, then welcome. We're going through a long list of phrasal verbs. And if you are new here, please do click the follow button, subscribe or follow, and also give this video a thumbs up. That would be wonderful. Thank you, guys. Okay, let's carry on here. Okay, I'm going to move on now. We've had quite a lot of examples. Let me just take this off the screen here and show you the next one. So another way of using breakdown is to talk about something that's machinery or technology based. Talk about it stop working. So if something like a car or a computer or a coffee making machine or a lawnmower perhaps, if it stops working, then you can say it has broken down. And this, we often talk about cars. My car broke down last week. What a nightmare. In fact, I think that's my example sentence I've written. I can't believe it. My brand new car has broken down, so I had to get the bus. What a nightmare. What a nightmare. Now, my car many years ago did break down on the M25, which is the circular motorway that goes all the way around London. It's a very, very busy motorway, as you can imagine, with a motorway that serves a big city. My car broke down while I was traveling at 70 miles an hour in the fast lane. That was very scary. In fact, what happened was the entire machine just shut down. The engine just shut off. I had no control. So all I could do was put on my hazard lights and slowly work my way through all the speeding traffic to try and get onto the hard shoulder, which is the section where no cars go at the side, and that's for emergencies. I was lucky that all the other vehicles around me were paying attention because I had no control over my speed. I couldn't speed up, or I could press my brakes, but I didn't want to because if I came to a stop, then I wasn't going to get the car moving again. So I was very lucky that day. And after that, I decided to buy a new car and not keep buying very old cars. Okay, have you ever broken down? Give me a sentence about something, machine or technology breaking down. Okay, here we have, my bike broke down after accident. Very good. You just need to put an article in there, after an accident. Or you could say after the accident, if it's an accident you've already been speaking about. So imagine we've been talking, you've told me about an accident that you had last week involving a bus, perhaps, and your bike. And then you might say, oh, yeah, and my bike broke down after the accident. So you could use the then because we know which accident you're talking about. But if you haven't previously mentioned it, you just say an accident. My bike broke down after an accident. And very good. Just remember to put a full stop at the end and a capital letter at the beginning. Okay. Okay. Was your stolen car found in the end, or did you have any insurance for theft? My car was stolen last year, which is why this viewer is asking about that. Yes, we did have insurance for theft. You have to have car insurance in this country, and you have to have at least third-party cover. So that means if you damage somebody or somebody else's car or property, then you are insured to cover the cost of sorting that out. Most people will go for third-party fire and theft, which is a package. And obviously that covers the car being stolen or catching fire and burning. And then you can have a fully comprehensive insurance, which is where if you cause an accident and your car is damaged, then the insurance won't just cover the other person, but it will cover your car to be fixed as well, even if it's your fault. So that's fully comprehensive insurance. Yes, we had fully comprehensive insurance which covered theft, although payout from insurance in some circumstances doesn't always cover the cost of replacing the car, which is annoying. But we managed to get a replacement car. It just wasn't very easy. And they never found the car, and they never found out who did it. So it's just one of those things. But thanks for asking. Okay. My car broke down, traffic jam. So my car broke down in a traffic jam. So you have to put it somewhere. My car broke down in a traffic jam. Yeah, that happens. Often cars overheat in traffic jams, don't they? It can be, make sure you put B in there. It can be very dangerous when a car breaks, with an S, breaks down while driving. So remember the conjugation of the verbs. It breaks, the car breaks down while driving. Yes, it's also very scary. Okay, last example, then we're moving on. His mobile was broken down by his brother yesterday. No, so a person can't break something down unless they're breaking it into pieces, which is a different version of breakdown. So if something breaks, machinery or technology, and you're using the phrasal verb break down, then it's usually because something happens sporadically, like the car overheating in a traffic jam. That's not anybody's fault. It just happens. Or maybe a gasket within the engine has worn away because of time and usage, and it just happens. Perhaps a phone battery, just because of extended use, could break down. A phone could break down because the battery's been misused, but it's not someone actually physically breaking it. It's not like the phone being dropped. If the phone was dropped, then the phone was broken. It wasn't broken down. Does that make sense? So my phone broke down yesterday. In fact, my brother broke my phone because he dropped it. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Right. Where do I find that comment to take it off the screen? There we go. I'm using a new software here, so I'm still getting used to it. I've used it a few times. But okay, I'll do this one, then I'll move on. A couple of years ago, I fell asleep while driving and bumped my car at a roundabout. I was lucky that I survived. However, my car broke down. Again, because you've done this, because it was an accident that you were at fault because you fell asleep, I'd say my car was written off. I'd use a different phrasal verb. To write off something means it can't be fixed. It's so badly damaged. And normally if you have a bad accident, then you say it's a write-off. It can't be fixed. It needs to be gotten rid of. My car was badly damaged, you would say, if it was just damage that could be fixed. But again, because you caused the damage, you won't use the phrasal verb breakdown. Okay, I hope that's clear. Let's move on to the next one. So it's another version of breakdown, and this is to remove a barrier or an obstacle. And the example I've given here is the troops had to break down the barricade to get into the main chamber of the government building. So to break down a barrier or break down an obstacle. Probably not something you're going to use very often, but you may hear about it in the news. Yeah. So it's physically taking down or removing an obstacle, to break something down. Okay. So I'm just catching my eye on some of your comments are catching my eye. Here's one that's interesting. I broke down my relation with my wife. Ali, that's not quite the right phrasal verb, but we are going to come up to a phrasal verb that might be better for you here. So if you've ended the relationship with your wife, then what you could say is my relationship has broken down. Because again, to break down, usually it's not one particular person is at fault. It kind of just happens over time, or for a reason outside of your control. So you can say my relationship has broken down. We just grew apart over time. But if you have ended the relationship, that's a different phrasal verb, and I will come to that soon. So to break down a barricade or break down an obstacle. The next phrasal verb on the list here is to break in. To break in. And this is to go into a building to steal something. And I've put an example here as if I were the robber, as if I'm the criminal. I've said, the plan is to break into the old man's garage and steal his ride-on lawnmower. Okay, so the plan is to break in. Oh, and I've written break the wrong way. Oh, please ignore that terrible spelling. Hang on. Let me correct that. There we go. There we go. Ignore that bad spelling a minute ago. The plan is to break in. Oh my goodness. To the old man's garage and steal his ride-on lawnmower. Has anybody here got a ride-on lawnmower? I think that's the dream, isn't it? To have the need and the funds to have a ride-on lawnmower. We don't. We had a normal push lawnmower. Now we've actually got artificial grass. So that saves us from having to do any mowing. Yay! Okay, so to break in. Hopefully no one here has ever had to break in. Sometimes you might have to break into your own home if you lock yourself out. Okay, here's a good one. The protesters slammed the barricade to break down. So you separate the phrasal verb here and say break them down. The protesters slammed the barricade to break them down, the barricades. Here you put barricades as plural, so you'd say them down. If it was a barricade single, then you'd say break it down. Okay, very good. Take that off there. Can I say someone collided my car from the back? No, you could say someone collided with my car from the back, but it's a long way of saying someone went into the back of me. Someone went into the back of me. So if you come into the building with your keys in your hand, it's obvious you've just got out of your car and said, oh, I can't believe it. Someone just went into the back of me. Everyone will know that you're talking about your car. Okay. So sometimes we can talk about people shunning or shunt. Is it just shunt from the back? Which is a knock from the back, which pushes you forward to shunt. Because shun is to give someone the cold shoulder, not to pay attention to them, to shun them. If they say hello and you don't respond, you're shunning them. If they send you an invitation and you don't respond to the invitation, you're shunning their invitation. But to shunt, with a T on the end, is to be pushed forward. So you could say that I was shunted while I was sat at traffic lights. Some idiot went into the back of me. Hope that helps. The dog broke down the fence. So just be very careful with your verb here in the phrasal verb. The dog breaks, it breaks. The dog breaks down. I break down, you break down, he, she breaks down, it breaks down, they break down. It's probably not helpful me saying it. I should probably write it. But yeah, be careful with your, let me just do the rest of the sentence. The dog breaks down the fence and bites, again, another verb, it needs an S on it, and bites a person. Good. I broke in a gift shop to buy chocolates for Anna. Ah, thank you very much. I broke into a gift shop to buy chocolates for Anna. And although I don't condone criminal activity, I do thank you for the chocolates. The robbers broke into the bank last month and stole a lot of money. Good. Oh, no, it's not good. The sentence was good. The use of the phrasal verb was good, but the act was not good. It was a terrible burglary. The thief, so the theft is the act. The theft. I talk about the theft of my car. The thief is the person who does the theft or the thieving. It's a bit tricky, isn't it? But the thief, which has got I think it's THEIF, thief. but don't take my word for it without seeing it written. I'm not sure. The thief broke in. So now you're changing it to past tense. The thief broke in at 3 a.m. Broke in. Okay, one more time. One more example, and then I'll move on. Their plan to break into my house didn't go well. What happened? Good, really nice. Good sentence. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So we can also use break in to talk about a horse being trained to be ridden. So if you're going to ride a horse, you can't just take any old horse, jump on the horse's back and expect it to behave. The horse needs to be broken in. They're not used to having people on their back naturally, so they have to get used to that. So they have to be broken in. Once a horse is broken in, then you can ride them. Okay, I'll just show you the example. And this isn't very commonly used because not everyone talks about horses, so I'll move on quite quickly from this. But my example sentence is, we breed horses for racing. First, they spend a few years at the local stables. The staff there break them. Oh, no, that should be break the horses in. The staff there break the horses in and get them ready to begin training with a rider. Okay, so I think that makes sense. The next version, which is very similar, break in, is talking about carefully. That doesn't make sense. Careful. Whoa, what have I written here? Careful use. Guys, when I'm writing these notes, I have so much going on around me that I obviously don't pay attention. Careful use of new products until they are fully functional. That makes more sense. Sorry about that. Careful use of new products until they are fully functional. So this is like when you get something new and you just need to start getting it used to the motion. For example, I've talked about shoes in the example sentence because often we get new shoes and it's always the same story, isn't it? You put on a pair of new shoes in the shop and you go, oh yeah, you know, they feel comfortable, they're nice. You get them home, you put them on and you go out, and within moments of being outside of the house, you start to get that feeling, that blister feeling, and it's agonizing. And so what most of us do is break our shoes in. So we wear them a little bit just around the house for a couple of times to start getting the shoes a little soft, a little bit stretched, get them used to the shape of your foot and get your feet hardened to those rub points so that you don't get blisters and you don't get sore feet. But you can use break in to talk about anything that you would have to treat in that way, to treat them gently initially until they're fully ready to go. Okay, so you break it in. Hope that makes sense. What's a blister? Very good point. A blister, when something rubs on your skin repetitively and you then get oh no, hang on, let me give you my face. You then get a little pocket of fluid under the skin that makes the skin bulge, and some people pop the blister, so they let the fluid drain, but that's bad. The fluid is there to protect the flesh, the flesh underneath your skin. So blister is your body's natural plaster. So it's fluid that's created by rubbing. Sometimes those blisters will burst just from the rubbing, and then that's a really painful injury to have. You get them on your feet usually. Someone's asked what a splinter is as well. Hang on, let me just get rid of this comment. Where is that? Oh, I thought you meant splinter. Yeah, no, splinter is different. A splinter is when you get a piece of something, usually wood, a splinter of wood or glass, or anything really in under the skin. It's like a little shard, a little teeny peeny piece. Okay. Let's move on. So we break in our shoes. You break in a horse. Hopefully you don't break into a house. And then we move away from break in and go to break off. Oh, I think someone's on the roof. That's all that noise up there. So to break a piece off something is to break a piece of something away. So if I have a biscuit, I might break off a piece for you. If I have a big bar of chocolate and you ask me nicely, then I might break off a square of chocolate to give to you. So to break off is to take a piece away from something. The example I've given here is actually from a real life incident. Did you hear about the man at the museum who lent on a statue for a selfie and accidentally broke off a few toes? So not his toes, the statue's toes. So there's a man in a museum, I can't remember where it was, but he was leaning on a very old statue to take a selfie, and two of the toes broke off. How terrible is that? It was caught on CCTV, and I saw it on the news a few years ago now. But yes, to break off is to break a piece away. Can you give me an example sentence? Oh, here's a random question. So and because, what's the difference? So is the result. I'm hot, so I'll take off my cardigan. It's dark, so I'll turn on the light. Because is the reason why. I'm taking off my cardigan because I'm hot. I'm hot, so I'll take off my cardigan. You see? So is used to talk about the result of something. Why? No, the result of... Yeah, because is the why, so is what the result will be. Okay? Okay. She broke a square of chocolate off of the bar. Yes, good. She broke a square of chocolate off. Yes, you can separate it. She broke a square of chocolate off of the bar. That's an unusual sentence only because of the off of, which we do that off of. But you could say she broke off a square of chocolate. She had a bar of chocolate and broke off a square. But yes, that's right. I don't know why I'm laboring on that. Oh goodness, Lisa has asked, what's the difference between either and neither? Asking me on the spot, either... It's a tricky one, and I'm sure I've done a lesson on this because there's a lot of things to consider when talking about these two. It's not easy to demonstrate the difference just off the cuff, talking without writing things down and showing you. But there is a lesson on that. I'm almost certain I've done a lesson on that. So if you have a look on my channel, or just Google either and neither, the difference, and there'll be some excellent examples, I'm sure. Okay. All right, I'm going to carry on with the list. So then we have break off, meaning a relationship ending. So if you break off a relationship, and this is what we had earlier, someone had the example of breaking off a relationship with their wife. It means that you or someone ends the relationship. This is not a relationship breaking down. Remember, breakdown is when something like stops working naturally, but not because of any one particular person. To break off is an action to stop something. So break off is what you do or what a person does to stop something. Can break off be used for quitting a bad habit? He broke off smoking. Not really. Just trying to think if there's any circumstances where it would be used that way. I don't think so. It doesn't sound natural in my head. but I'm not always absolutely 100% correct. So don't take my word for it, but I don't think that is the case. Break off can be used to talk about a relationship or, a friendship, a relationship, an engagement, a marriage, an arrangement even. But most often it's used for relationship or engagement. So here my example is Emily was the one who broke off their engagement when she found out that Matthew had been unfaithful. Oh, naughty Matthew. Okay. So I'll take your word for everything. Please don't. always, if you're doubting anything, even if it's someone who is an authority on a subject, always double check, because nobody is 100% correct. Things change. Sometimes teachers have just learnt the wrong things themselves and they haven't been corrected. I make mistakes. Your other teachers make mistakes. I'm sure each one of you have made a mistake in your line of work before. So never just completely trust one source. Always double check if you're not sure. Okay. Has anyone given me an example here? I threaten my friends that I will break off their friendship if they don't allow me to talk with Anna. Good. Okay. I threaten my friends that I will break. I tell my friends, I threaten my friends that I will break off their friendship, our friendship, not their friendship, our friendship, because it's between you and them. So you would say our. I threaten my friends that I will break off our relationship if they don't allow me to talk with Anna. Good. Not good, but good. You know what I mean. Okay. Wazim keeps asking about heebie-jeebies. The use of heebie-jeebies. The heebie-jeebies is a funny feeling that you get when you feel a bit weird. Something makes you feel uncomfortable, a bit scared perhaps. Ooh. So I could say cobwebs in my face gives me the heebie-jeebies, or hearing spooky music gives me the heebie-jeebies, or being in my grandma's old house gives me the heebie-jeebies. I feel a bit scared, a bit weird. So you say it gives me the heebie-jeebies. Okay? Not to be mistaken for the Bee Gees, who are a singing group. They're not around anymore. Some of them have died. Maybe all of them have died now. Good band, though. Okay. Next use of break off is to be used when talking. So you break off a sentence when you're speaking. If you stop abruptly when speaking, you could say you broke off. So here I've written, the news anchor broke off mid-sentence. Now, this is very common with this phrasal verb, to break off mid-sentence or to break off in the middle of a sentence. Those words naturally go together with this phrasal verb, mid-sentence or middle of a sentence. The news anchor broke off mid-sentence when he realized that the breaking news about a house exploding was actually his house. I quite like that example. Okay, so he was in the middle of talking and then just stopped. So that is to break off mid-sentence because something else takes your thought or something else catches your attention. And so you're in the middle of speaking and you break off. Okay, here's an example. He broke off in mid-sentence to shake hands with the new arrivals. Good. Commonly natives take away in. He broke off mid-sentence, but you can say he broke off in mid-sentence or in the middle of his sentence. Tomek says, thanks for your series of shorts. I love them. Thank you, Tomek. I do actually have a new YouTube channel called English Like a Native Shorts, which is dedicated to shorts in entirety. The only stuff that's going to be on that channel is lessons under a minute long. So if you like the shorts format, then, and I would love to have more followers on that channel. It's really hard starting a new channel. then I'd love to have you come and join me. So come and join me on YouTube, English Like a Native Shorts, and hopefully you'll enjoy the content I do there. Okay, the teacher broke off mid-sentence when the principal entered the classroom. Perfect, Mahmood. Perfect sentence. Well done. A lot of girls are breaking down their relationships because you're talking about plural, lots of girls. A lot of girls are breaking down their relationships with poor guys. Breaking off. Remember, breaking down is the phrasal verb that just happens because of external influence or something outside of your control. To break off is what one person does. The boy does it. The girl does it. Someone is responsible for a break off. A lot of girls are breaking off their relationships with poor guys. Yeah, good. Okay. Good. Okay, a quick pronunciation question here. I'll take, hello, Anna. Difference between source and source? No difference in terms of pronunciation. It's just source. Hope that helps. Okay, let's move on. So we're breaking off mid-sentence. Now we're moving on to break out. Yay. Okay, so to break out means to start something, a war or a conflict, or this could be used. Oh, yes, that comes next. I'm moving too far ahead of myself. So let's talk about war or conflict. Fighting broke out between the two sides after peace talks broke down. Fighting broke out between the two sides after peace talks broke down. I put peace talks broke down here in bold because broke down is what we talked about earlier. If something breaks down, it means negotiations stop and are unsuccessful. So the peace talks broke down, so they stopped because they were unsuccessful. Good. Well, no, it's not good. Fighting broke out between these two sides after peace talks broke down. So the fighting has started. Obviously, there are lots of real life examples at the moment that I could have attributed this sentence to. It's horrifying watching the news at the moment, all the terrible things that are happening in so many different places around the world. I know I'm not very vocal about them on my platforms, but it's awful. And my heart goes out to anyone who's suffering in any of those places. And it really upsets me because I can't do anything. And sometimes it just feels like the world's gone crazy. And I just wish that everyone could just be happy. And anyway, let's move on. Okay, so we have the breakout of fighting, and then we have break out in. If you break out in, we're talking about a sweat, or we're talking about spots, or we're talking about a rash. So you break out in a sweat, or you break out in a rash. Or if you just simply say, I have a breakout, we're talking about lots of spots coming up. So the example I gave here is, I'm allergic to melon. If I even touch a melon for a second, it will cause me to break out in a terrible rash all over. So a terrible rash all over my body. This isn't true, by the way. This is just an example. So if I even touch a melon for a second, I'm so allergic, it will cause me to break out in a rash. If I get nervous, I break out in a sweat. It means it just suddenly starts. If I eat chocolate, I break out in spots. I break out in spots. And that's true. If I have too much chocolate and too much dessert, too much sweet stuff, then I do break out in spots. My son, when he had his terrible eczema, certain foods would cause him to have a big breakout. And this was a rash. Is it something that any of you guys deal with? So my hair stood on end when I broke out in spots. Do you mean like your hair was like, ah? Is that what you mean? Because normally we talk about hair standing up when you get goosebumps, when someone gives you shivers. Oh, my hair's standing up on end. So I'm not quite sure what you mean with that one. Break out in laughter. Yes, you could break out in laughter. So to break out in something is just for something to happen suddenly. That's Nick, by the way, in the background. Say hi.
Hiya.
Okay. So yes, so it's something to happen suddenly. We have here, I had the COVID vaccine today and I broke out. So it is recent past, but it's still past. I broke out in a rash. I had the COVID vaccine today and I broke out in a rash. Okay. Hope the rash clears up soon, but good on you for getting the vaccine. Suddenly, fire broke out in what country? In my country? Suddenly, fire broke out in my country. Yes, you could say a fire broke out. And that's like start, isn't it? When we talk about like conflict, so you could talk about conflict or fire breaking out. Okay, another version of breakout, which we have on the list, is to escape. So prisoners break out of prison, for example. The example I've written here is, my friend thought it would be funny to lock me in the downstairs loo. The problem was the key snapped in the lock, so I had to break out by knocking down the door. So break out, very simple, just means escape. Okay, and while I'm here, because we've been on for nearly an hour now, I'll talk about breakthrough. To break through means to pass a barrier or obstacle. And I've here used the example of a marathon. If you're a runner, you hit a mental block, a mental wall. They talk about hitting the wall. So you get so far and you just think, I can't take another step. I can't do it. And you have to get through that to then have a second burst of energy to complete the run. And my example reads, I hit a mental wall at around 20 miles into my run, but the thought of my children helped me to break through and I finally finished the marathon. So to break through. Now, this is different to break down. Earlier, we talked about breaking down a barricade, which is similar. The breakdown is to take away an obstacle. So you break it down, you pull it all away. To break through, you're not necessarily taking it away, you're just pushing through it. So it's used differently. So you push through something that's hard, you break through something that's tricky, but you break down something that's in the way, you take it all away. Okay, so that's our list. Let's do a very quick recap. Scroll back. This is fun, isn't it? Okay, here we go. So we've got breakdown to end negotiations unsuccessfully. Breakdown meaning to start crying. We have breakdown, something technology or machinery. When it breaks down, it means it stops working. But that's usually something out of your control. It just happens, a surprise. You can break down a barrier or an obstacle. So to break it down, to take it away. You can break in if you're a criminal. You can break into something and steal some stuff. Hopefully you won't. You break in a horse, so you get it ready to be ridden. Or you can break in a pair of shoes or other products that need to be used very carefully before they're fully functional. You can break off a piece of something, hopefully not an expensive statue or something that's valuable. And that is when a person is actually doing the action of breaking. You break off the relationship. You can break off mid-sentence, so you abruptly stop talking. And if you do, fighting might break out. And then you might break out in a sweat. Or you can break out of a place to escape it, and you can break through a barrier, a mental block, or something that's stopping you moving forward. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our list. I hope you all found that helpful. Are there any more burning questions that you've got for me? You'd quickly jot it down now, and I'll try my best to answer a few questions before saying goodbye and going to see my children and seeing how the gardeners are getting on in the garden. My children are just in the house. They are with their childminder at the moment while I'm here with you lovely people. Okay, break out. You don't break out in laugh. You break out laughing. So you can say break out laughing, or break out in laughter, or burst into laughter. Yes, you say burst into laughter as well. Can I ask a question? How do I differentiate between 2 and 2TD? Not quite sure what you mean. Not quite sure what you mean. 2 is never pronounced with a D. Sorry, I'm not quite sure what you mean with that one. The contestant or a contestant gave a breakthrough performance. Yeah, that's a really great use of breakthrough. So as an adjective, a breakthrough performance is something that really allows them to stand out from the crowd. They break through all the rest of the talent because they're better. They're head and shoulders above the rest. So they have a breakthrough performance. Is it break into a house or break into with a space? So into is often seen together. It's not a problem if you separate the two or put them together. They can be written as either. Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Anna. Very helpful. Good. I'm glad it was. Could you please make a pronunciation class? Yes, I can do a pronunciation class at some point soon. I do have a pronunciation course for those of you who are really committed and want to really make a difference to your pronunciation training. There is a course available on my website, which is at the bottom of the screen. And on that site, there's over 150 lessons, if I remember correctly, and over 5,000 audios for you to use to help you to really get all of those standard British English sounds and help you to improve. And there's also English courses available on that website as well, with lots more to come. I'm very busy at the moment. I've got a problem with phrasal verbs. How can I remember and use them fluently? Is there any exercise or another way that you suggest? Yes. So the very best way to really take on new information like phrasal verbs, like vocabulary, is not to try and learn too much too quickly, but to take one or two at a time, because you have to use these. You have to get them into your everyday speaking. Otherwise, you're never going to remember them long term. I would write them. So when I'm taking lessons like this, I'd make notes, because the physical act of physically writing has been proven to help create more neural pathways. So it helps you to remember. Yeah, the gardeners are getting noisy now, so I'm going to have to finish. But yeah, write it down first of all, and then focus on a couple a day to practice saying, and then bite-sized learning. It'll all work out. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to go because it's going to be noisy and it's not going to be nice for anybody. I do have an Instagram, British English Pro. Come and follow me there, and follow my shorts channel, English Like a Native Shorts. And I'll hopefully see you again in a few weeks' time. I'll try and come live more often. Don't forget to like, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you.